Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for tuning in today. Our topic is mental health, specifically how to reduce things like anxiety, toxic thoughts, and stress. My guest is Dr. Caroline Leaf, author of the book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, 5 Simple Scientifically Proven Steps to Reduce Anxiety, Stress, and Toxic Thinking. Dr. Leaf, great to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Great to see you.
So we know that mental health issues have really expanded, really exploded during the pandemic, things like stress and anxiety. How bad is the situation right now, when it comes to people having mental health issues?
Laurie, the answer to that is actually quite complicated because we've always had mental health issues. It's not like they are something new. So even before the pandemic, there was a massive issue with mental health in terms of managing it. So there's research showing that people were dying 8 to 25 years younger from preventable lifestyle issues. And then obviously that's accumulated over this time period of the pandemic. But I think we need to look at it differently because if we think, oh, this is terrible, it's expanding, it's worse, we need to look at there's a difference. What we are experiencing as a global humanity is a normal response to adverse circumstances. So our environment affects us and it has affected us. We've been through a terrible time. We're still going through it now with the war. Ukrainian-Russian war doesn't help. Our environment impacts us. So what's happening is that what we haven't really done enough in society is to help people to manage their mind in relation to adverse circumstances. That's a tremendous area of neglect, basically called mind management. And when we have that, when things hit us, like the pandemic, then we don't know what to do and things escalate out of control. And because of the languaging of anxiety and depression being a disease, there's suddenly this thing of, oh gosh, not only is there the COVID pandemic, but there's another disease pandemic. But we've got to shift our perspective. Mental health issues have always been with humans. We all have mental health issues, and sometimes mental health issues accumulate and become mental health problems. And that's really what's been happening over the last 40 years. It's just been kind of accumulating, and now we're sitting, boom, with a lot of mental health problems, which we can manage if we start pivoting and looking at mental health in a very different way.
Well, I love the fact that you talked about, these things. The world is always going to be a very challenging place. And, when I was growing up, my mother used to say all the time, it's not so much what happens to you that matters, it's how you respond to it. And honestly, I sort of forgot that she always used to say that until I read your book. And this is one of the principles in your book. It's not so much what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. And another really foundational concept in your book is that our thoughts control whether we have anxiety or stress, and we can control our thoughts. A lot of people don't realize that we can control our thoughts, that they sort of happen and we really don't have much to, anything to do with them. But what you talk about is these thoughts that we often don't even realize are playing over and over and over again. And a lot of times those thoughts are actually incorrect. So we need to be, number one, aware of what we're thinking, which is a huge leap for a lot of people, and then also challenge those thoughts, correct them. And that's part of the 5-step process. You say the first step is to just, be aware of what you're thinking, particularly when you feel stress or anxiety, things like that. So how does a person do step 1, be aware of what you're thinking?
Well, your mom's brilliant, Laurie. So that's so true because the science actually confirms exactly what she says, which is where the 5 steps called the neurocycle are birthed out of. You can't change what's happened to you, but you can change what's in you. So your mind is changing your brain all the time because your mind is how you experience life. The mind is your energy, that is your ability to think and feel and choose. It's kind of like the software, the designing of the software and the putting of the software into a computer and the running of the computer and plugging in the computer. That's all the mind's work, and the computer's the brain. So the brain can't do anything without the mind. The brain follows the pattern of the mind. So in the concept of the neurocycle, what we do is we look at literally the impact of the world on our life, because we are 95, 96, 97% of who you are and how you turn up in any one day is basically, because it's the life or the environment the world has literally been coded into your brain and your body. So the environment is inside of you, and that's what's driving you. So we're pretty much being driven on an unconscious level by approximately 95%. Now that impacts us, and if we don't tune into the impact, then that will drive us, and that then leads to increased anxiety, depression, etc., which are warning signals telling you, hey, what's driving you? And the what's driving you is the thought, which is the product of us experiencing our environment. So the neurocycle, step one being gather awareness, is looking at the impact of the environment on our life, aka COVID. What has it done to you? The Ukrainian-Russian war, racism, and then down to those are the global issues, down to your unique individual environment and context and the story of your life. And all that's coded in, and it impacts us. And when I say code, neural coding into our brain, and also changes in every cell of our body. So memories are not just in the brain, but also in the body. And then that impacts how we're functioning. And everything's geared towards you surviving. So therefore, your brain and body will work with you, and your mind, brain, and body, the three together, will work with you to warn you. So gathering awareness is picking up those warning signals and training yourself through self-regulation, which we're capable of doing every 10 seconds, which is quite phenomenal. So we're very capable of training ourselves to self-regulate and look at the impact of life on us and edit the code.
I really love how you talk about sort of regulating the way you think. So what I find really interesting is that you lay out these 5 wonderful steps, and you can do them maybe 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, 45 minutes a day, maybe at the end of the day. But what's really great is you can do them all the time. And I've started doing them all the time. So if I find, for example, and I'm sharing this with our viewers because it's really helpful. So if I find myself feeling anxious or stressed out, I think, what am I thinking right now? Oh, and then I realize what I'm thinking, and then you challenge it. And, you know, when you have a really good friend, a parent, or somebody that is very close to you, a lot of times this goes on between the two of you. Like you can say, oh my gosh, I look so fat. And the person will say, no, you don't. You look great. Well, sort of what your book says is you say that to yourself. You're like, oh, I'm so fat. Yeah. You recognize that that's what's bothering you, and then you challenge it. You're like, and then you write down how big of a problem is this, and then you sort of work it through in your mind. And this is something that you can do all the time. If you're getting ready to go into a meeting, or if you have some sort of challenge at work, you think, you know, you stop and think, okay, what's bothering me? And then you realize, oh, it's these people, they think such and such. And then you can challenge that and think, well, you know what, maybe they don't, and they have a lot of good qualities. And so it's really helpful to write down, to figure out what you're thinking, to challenge it. But then another huge part is writing it down. What's the key in writing things down? Why is that so important?
Well, so important, Laurie, you explained that so well. So from gathering awareness, you go to the second step of reflect. So once you've gathered all those signals, we only mentioned one, you're then going to dive into reflect. Now, the reflecting is, why am I thinking, why am I having these, feeling depressed, withdrawing, pain in my body, life sucks, whatever. You look at all those signals, and then that takes you to the physical thought, which is encapsulating the experience. And that's where you, as you quite rightly say, you start seeing this thing, I am fat, or I'm useless, or I can never get a relationship going. You start seeing, and I'm going to hold up a tree over here, which kind of represents the protein thought that is producing those signals that you are using the neurocycle to deconstruct. Because this is the experience from the environment that you've coded in, and the neurocycle is how you're coding it out and editing the code. So you've gathered awareness. You then reflect. Why do I have this? Exactly how you explained so beautifully. And then what you've gathered and reflected on, using why, you write down. When you write down what you're doing, and I'm going to hold up a brain, is that you force the two sides of the brain to work together, especially very high activity in the frontal lobe, and you activate various different energy patterns in the brain. That then, that combination of that type of brain activity then stimulates a whole pattern through the brain, and you get very insightful. And when you get insightful, what you do is you basically pull this toxic thought very much into the conscious mind, and you destabilize the energy. And as soon as something's destabilized, you can reconstruct it.
Wow, this is really fascinating. Unfortunately, we're going to have to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back with with Dr. Caroline Leaf. The book is called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, 5 Simple Scientifically Proven Steps to Reduce Anxiety, Stress, and Toxic Thinking. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to Healthy Living, and we're continuing our discussion with Dr. Caroline Leaf, author of Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, 5 Simple Scientifically Proven Steps to Reduce Anxiety, Stress, and Toxic Thinking. So, Dr. Leaf, we talked about the steps are gather awareness of what's bothering you, reflect and analyze, write down what you discover from step 2, recheck and edit what you've written down, practice and apply. So one thing that is one of the principles is this idea of neuroplasticity, the fact that we can actually change our brains and actually increase, this is so exciting to me, increase our cellular volume, the volume of our brain. A lot of people think, as you age, your brain deteriorates, but just like with muscles, that you can change and you can build your brain.
Absolutely. And that's probably one of the most exciting things that I did some of the first work in neuroplasticity back in the 80s when they said your brain couldn't change. And I said, that's impossible. Did work and showed that the way you use your mind drives your brain. Your brain's nothing without your mind. Your brain is the thing that, your mind is the thing that switches the brain on. So the more you use your brain, the better your brain gets. And going to your point, Laurie, of the aging brain, most of the studies were done on dead people with diseases. Now we understand that we can look at the brain differently. Your brain is the only organ in your body that gets better with age, depending on how you use your brain. So you, with your mind, use your brain. And the neurocycle we've just been talking about is how you systematically, you can put any technique in there, but when you follow that system, you are actually driving your brain in the right direction, using your brain correctly, and therefore detoxing and building the brain, growing cellular volume, as you said, changing, growing health into the brain, and then that translates into health in the body.
And one thing that I think is really interesting is there are so many different ways to grow your brain. We're talking about emotions. So there are certain ways to, and this is requires a lot of discipline, just like with weightlifting. Yes. There are specific things that you can do that improve your emotions, but also your cognitive ability, your ability to think clearly. And, we talk about things like reading and doing crossword puzzles and learning a new language, things that stimulate your brain, but also diet and exercise. To me, it's really amazing how junk food, especially sugar, can really harm your brain and actually make you feel worse overall. You know, when you eat a piece of chocolate cake, it undoubtedly makes you feel really good while you're eating it, but actually in the long run sort of harms your brain and can contribute to negative emotions. Can you talk about that a little?
Yes, so what's really important to understand, Laurie, is that the pattern of your mind follows, it will direct the pattern of your brain. So your mind is overarching everything. But your brain needs to be, your brain needs nutrition in order to function properly. So if you're eating that kind of junk food, processed foods, the modern American diet, it definitely does damage the nutritional status of the brain, which makes it very difficult for the mind to work through something. It's like breaking your computer or not looking after your computer. It does damage the brain. But we've also got to remember that our mind actually is the thing that's driving the change. So once we shift our patterns of eating, we then can regrow the damage that's happened in the brain. And that's really what the beauty of neuroplasticity is. So it's never just a diet. If you are working on if you are changing your eating patterns and bringing in a more balanced approach to nutrition, eating nutritionally dense food, but you're not dealing with toxic thoughts, you're not dealing with managing stresses, you're not dealing with those traumas from the past, you bamboozling your way through the day totally freaked out and stressed, you actually lose up to 86% of that good nutrition. So this is a point I want to make. We can focus on nutrition, but nutrition without mind work is you're going to lose up to 86% of the benefit. And with exercise, if you are exercising, great program, fantastic, but you're not managing your mind, you will once again lose the majority of that benefit of that exercise will also be lost. And that's a factor, Laurie, that people don't talk about enough, is that yes, do the exercise. We all know exercise, healthy eating, get those into, take cycles of 63 days to build those patterns into the brain. Otherwise, you're not going to do them anyway. But more importantly, you have to be working on your mind issues. And that's why I say 15 to 45 minutes a day. And then as you've so beautifully explained, throughout the course of the day, you can use the neurocycle as well in 1 minute. So you can do it in a very systematic way daily to work on the big stuff like the traumas and those toxic habits and rebuilding new eating patterns, etc., through the system of rewiring, which is what the neurocycle's doing. Mm-hmm. And then during the day, you can be managing your mind. And that combination then will get the best out of the healthy nutrition. Because we so often think, okay, I'll just change my diet, I'll just bring in this exercise program and my mental health under control. And it's not going to be the case. Mm-hmm. We have to have mind attached to it. We've got to be managing our mind all the time.
I love it. This is such an encouraging message because, you know, controlling your thoughts is an actual possibility. We can control our thoughts. We need to control our thoughts, but it doesn't happen instantly. I noticed in my own personal life, I will be like, I was at a stop sign and I was thinking something really negative and I was like, you know what, that's not true. Don't think that. And I felt better. And then when I was at the next stoplight, I was thinking the very same thing again. So, you know, it takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a quick fix, but it definitely does work. And it's certainly something worth continuing. Well, we're going to take another quick break and be right back with Dr. Caroline Leaf. The book is called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. Stay with us.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world-class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians in Iran are routinely arrested.
Catholic Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, You wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back to Healthy Living, and we're continuing our discussion with Dr. Caroline Leaf. The book is called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. And, you know, Dr. Leaf, you talk about toxic thinking. What exactly is toxic thinking? Is it negative thinking about yourself and about other people, or is it deeper than that?
It's both. It's on a continuum from 1 to 10. So it can be toxic responses to a social media post, or someone getting irritated with you, or an irritating situation at work, which could be, you know, in the region of 1, 2, 3. But then there's the big stuff that hits us, like COVID, or like bullying, or the really bad stuff, rape, and those kinds of things. So it's on that continuum, and that's all toxic. The one end of the continuum we can really call trauma, and then the other side of the continuum we can call just the difficult and adverse issues that happen in life that are not as complex as something like bullying or rape or war, that kind of stuff. So we've got to look at the scale, the continuum. So it's complex trauma, and then it's your more simple toxic stuff. And then it's just bad habits that we get into. Like we get into a habit of, snapping or getting irritated or getting worked up about things. And the more you do something, the more it grows in your brain. Whatever you think about and practice doing the most, that's what's getting stronger in your brain, getting more energy. And then, so toxic thought actually looks different in the brain. And if I keep doing it over and over, it gets bigger and bigger, more energy. So then it goes into the non-conscious mind and becomes a very strong driving force. And until we gather awareness and reflect and work out why we're doing it and catch that over time, doesn't happen quickly, as we've mentioned, that's going to be a driving force. So that's kind of what toxic is, anything that is counterproductive to us operating in a functional state that brings us peace. Now, I'm not saying be scared of emotions. Emotions are amazing. They're warning signals alongside how our body feels and our behaviors and perspectives and so on. Emotions are warning signals. So depression, anxiety, frustration, irritation, they're not illnesses. They're not bad things. They're messengers. So in order for us to find a toxic thought, we have to listen to the signals. So the emotions are telling us about these.
Yeah.
And if we tune into the emotions, we can then find the toxic thoughts. And then we can literally deconstruct these, Laurie. We can destabilize these and turn them into these. So I'm using a little healthy green tree over here because these are literally what thoughts look like.
Yes.
Destabilize and reconceptualize into these.
Beautiful. And so we want nice thoughts. We want healthy thoughts. And, yes, beautiful and green and lush. And, I've done so many stories as the medical reporter here interviewing experts about how bad it is for your health, for your heart, for every aspect of your physical health to have negative thoughts. And, in our world today, whether it's the news media or social media, it's very prevalent to hate other people, or maybe that's too strong of another word, but to have negative thoughts about other people. So a lot of people bash themselves. I'm a loser. But also in their mind, they bash other people. And there's like this whole us-them thing going on in America right now, and even in the whole world. And that's something that you talk about in your book too. We need to stop thinking about that and, try to think more loving thoughts towards other people. And, those of us who have a Christian faith, that's what, the Bible, it tells us what to do, Jesus. And that's what we're taught to do, is to love other people and love even people who are your enemies. So this all kind of fits together for people, who have a faith as well.
Absolutely. So when you are sitting there bashing someone who doesn't believe what you believe, which, as you quite rightly say, is very prevalent in our country at the moment and globally. So this, if you're not in my tribe, I hate you kind of thing. And that is in yourself, you're damaging your own brain. And I've done research also showing right down to the level of telomeres, which are on chromosomes, looking at homocysteine, looking at all the different biomarkers in the brain and the body. I also working using QEEG, and we can see when you hate someone else, your brain goes into a state of anxiety. You increase inflammation, you increase cortisol. You actually, over time, if you continue to be angry and be mad at people that don't agree with you and that kind of stuff, you're increasing your vulnerability to disease by 35 to 98% over time. So we need to be managing that. And that doesn't mean that you accept what someone does is correct, like what's happening in Russia, what Putin's doing. This is not right. It's hurting other people. But you're not going to help by hating that person, because the anger then will become toxic. You're not going to have wisdom to be able to constructively fight that evil.
Right.
You want to be able to have wisdom inside of you. This blocks wisdom. You don't have insight. You don't have clarity of thought. We need to pull these up. We need to recognize why we feel this towards that person. And then we need to recognize, that person is doing what they're doing because of showing up because of what they're going through.
Right.
So it's not that we're going to excuse it, and it's wrong that murdering someone, and that's not acceptable. But that's coming from a source, and hating them doesn't help.
Right.
You've got to accept what they're doing is wrong, but you have to actually protect your own brain so that you can have clarity of thought and wisdom in order to contribute effectively into the world.
Well
if
said.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take one final break and be right back with Dr. Caroline Leaf. The book is called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Stay connected with CBN News all day across our platforms.
We only have just 30 seconds left with Dr. Leaf. Unfortunately, we could go on for hours, but Dr. Leaf, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your decades of research and for this fantastic book. I highly recommend it. And it's not so much what happens to you, but how you respond to it is a way to clean up our negative thoughts. Thank you so much for being here today. It was great to see you.
Thank you so much, Laurie. I loved how you mastered the concepts. I'm very impressed with you.
All right. Well, thanks again for being here. And thanks to you for tuning in to this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Laurie Johnson, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye now.